And welcome back, everyone, to the end of the year box office report. Who won, who lost, as I'm reading it verbatim off my very, very old thumbnail that I made. Hey, look, if it works, you keep using it. And I frankly don't want to keep having to remake a thumbnail every time if I don't have to. But yeah, if it works, keep using it. I've been doing this now for 3 years, this particular one. I think I've been doing this for 3 years. Hell, I think I even have a particular playlist for this one, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless. So it's the end of the year. Who were the winners? Who were the losers? How badly did they win? They lose, and how well did they win? So we're going to work backwards because it's always funner, at least in these circumstances, to save the one that took the biggest loss for last. But let's talk about the winner, the first big winner of the year. Coming in at number one. Now keep in mind, while my math is right, the numbers I'm using are probably not right, but they're about as close as I probably could get to the real ones. At least when it comes to like marketing budgets. The production budget for most of these can find that no problem. Coming in though at number one, the biggest winner of the year in terms of the box office was Universal. Universal had a fan-freaking-tastic year. Their overall total came out to $791 million as a net win this year. This included such hits as Megan, which was only made on $12 million, at best maybe at $30 million in marketing, reaped a profit of $78 million. You obviously had the Super Mario Brothers, and you had Oppenheimer, two films that made well over $400 million. Mario Brothers made over $700 million, and you even still had major wins like Five Nights at Freddy's, which made a profit of $144. So you had a studio that was frankly just cranking out hits after hits after hits in terms of profit. That said, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. They did still take some losses, particularly films like Knock at the Cabin lost them $13 million. A couple bigger ones were like Ruby Gillman, Renfield, Last Voyage of Demeter, Strays. Lost them upwards of $50 to $70 million each. The lowest one on that one was $52 million with Strays. And even right now, films like Trolls Band Together, it's lost them very little, but it still lost them a bit. It lost them like $8 million. Literally, very little money is lost on Trolls, but still a loss. Or Migration right now is still a loss at about $59 million loss, but Migration still has the advantage of being in theaters. So while it won't count towards the box office end of the year for this year, it still could actually end up being a profitable film, especially with nothing really being out right now to contend with that. So in the long and short of it, Universal, despite having a hiccup here or there, came out the number one this year for the highest box office gross for our films. Studios, that is. Coming in at number two, not quite as impressive, but still very impressive with the profit they made off the movie division this year, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers did not have the best of years in some regard, but they still had a really good year. They made over $500,000 in profit when it came to their movies. They had wins like the Barbie movie, which is the highest grossing film of the year, making $669 million in profit. They also were able to have things like Evil Dead Rise, which was made on very little money, $17 million, and ultimately raked in $147 million to ultimately get to about $61 million roughly in profit. You also had films like The Nun 2, again, made on very little, ultimately went on to make $268 million. Even Wonka right now has, in fact, turned a profit. Wonka currently stands about $58 million in terms of its profit. It's made on, I believe, like a combination of $125 for its actual budget, which that can be confirmed, and a speculative marketing budget between $50 and $75. Some people said it had to hit $250 to break even. I don't believe that. Probably say closer to $300. So it did that because it's currently made $387 million, and it's going to keep growing. So that's another big win long term for Warner Brothers. Honestly, it really wasn't that bad of a year in a lot of respects. But even the Meg 2 actually made money, made like $53 million. But where the studio really got butt hurt this year, it was on the comic book movies. Even Color Purple right now is still at a big deficit of like 92 million lost. But again, a movie that has just come out will continue to make some money. We'll see what happens there. But no, it was the comic book division this year. It was WB. It was DC that killed them. Shazam 2 lost them $135 million roughly. You have even Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle actually didn't lose a lot, but still lost $42 million. Aquaman currently has lost them about $133 million, but again, it's in theaters right now. It is still making money, so the loss is going to be mitigated the longer it's in theaters. So there's at least that. So you hear those, and you're like, okay, those are big losses, but are they enough to really hurt the number one spot? And the answer is yeah. The Flash lost, no joke, roughly about $270 million. I did the math. Warner Brothers, based on the math I did, made $526 million. Universal made $791, which means even if the Flash broke even, they still would not have beaten Universal this year. That's how badly the Flash did. You want to talk about, even Disney, well, obviously is lower on the list. Won't say where, but they're lower on the list. Even Disney did not, for the issues they've been having this year, did not have a $270 million loss. They did not have a loss that big this year. While they are lower on the list, Warner Brothers had the biggest financial loss this year. So, Warner Brothers coming in at the number 2 spot. Silver medal. Coming in at number 3, we got our good old friend Sony, who ever since they had that bankruptcy issue, I've always been keeping an eye on, being like, okay, how well are they doing? Sony did not have anywhere near as good a year as Warner Brothers or Universal, but they did at least still manage to make money. They made $57 million in profit, but that's still profit. And that kind of gives you an idea of how the bottom 3 did. Now, what did Sony actually have going for it this year? Well, Sony still actually had a couple of things. It had films such as Missing, which on only $7 million was actually able to make a little bit of money. It had films like The Pope's Exorcist, which again, made on a very low budget, made enough to make its money back. It had films, for example, like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was their big win, making $690 million with a profit of roughly $255 million. And then occasionally the little win here or there, like Insidious, The Red Door, which, hold on, this can't be right. This very much can't be right here. What? Oh, God, did I actually... Well, okay, it's not going to change the placement of where they are on here. But why? Oh, 80 million. Oh, God, did I write 8 by mistake? Please tell me I didn't write 8 by mistake. Oh, God, I think I wrote... Oh, my God, I think I made a big mistake here. I think I bypassed something. If I'm looking at this right, and I might be, Warner Brothers actually made... Sony actually made about 129 million, because I got one calculation wrong. I looked at it wrong when I was tallying them up. Point being, it doesn't change Sony's spot on the list. They're still number 3. But it does change a bit of how well they did. So actually, they made about 100 plus million in profit for their movies. Great. So Insidious The Red Door made about 80 million. Even like The Equalizer 3 made about 18 million. Not a lot, but still made stuff. Or still made some. And we have films like Anyone But You, which are currently still out in theaters and could make its money back. Great, wonderful. The problem here for Sony is they had a lot of small losses. And unfortunately, with losses, even small losses, that stuff compiles after a while. You have A Man Called Otto, which didn't actually make all of its money back, at least from what I could tell. Lost only about $4 million. You had bigger losses, though, like 65, which lost 59 million. Big George Foreman lost 43 million. Knights of the Zodiac, which is a Sony release, and did get apparently a bit of a widescreen release. That lost 85 million. You got films like The Machine, which lost 32 million. You got Dumb Money, which lost 44 million. You just have all these smaller losses that kind of compiled together to ultimately hinder Sony's actual success. So, yeah, Sony made it to the number 3 spot. So much, it's better to be in third and actually make money than to be in second and lose money. Imagine if all these studios lost money this year, and it's just a matter of who lost the least amount. But speaking of which, now we're into the studios that did not do well this year. Coming in at the number 4 spot, we have Lionsgate. I was actually a little surprised when I looked into Lionsgate here. The reason for that is because they took some hefty losses this year. They came out with a loss of roughly $142 million. Now, where does that come from? I mean, they now have a success on their hands with The Hunger Games. Currently only has made about $22 million, but that's still money won, still money earned. It's still going to make more money because it's still in theaters, so there's that. You had Saw X, which made about $42 million. You had the John Wick Chapter 4, which made almost $100 million. And I mean like straight profit made. Even smaller films like Jesus Revolution or The Blackening did in fact make a little bit of money. So where did the problem come? Well, the problem came from the fact that we had losses. Not some smaller, like for example, Sisu only lost maybe about 11 million. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret only lost about 36 million. Okay, not terrible. About My Father only lost about 37 million. Okay, but now you're starting to stack those up. But then you get into Expendables 4, which lost nearly $100 million. You get into Silent Night, which lost nearly as much as Expendables 4 did. 84 million versus 96. And the reason it lost so much is because it didn't even crack double digits. No one went to go see this film, and it's made on like 65 million with probably about 25, if not more, in marketing. So you're looking at a film made on roughly like $90 million that only made, no joke, about 8 million if you round it up. So this film lost. Proportionally, it lost way more money than the Expendables 4 did. Expendables 4 at least made like 38 million. That's not a lot, but comparatively, that's you're popping. The 96 million loss for Expendables percentage-wise is nowhere near as bad as the $84 million loss that Silent Night took. So you compile that all together, and unfortunately, the wins they ultimately gained were not enough to mitigate the losses they took. And so, coming in at number 4, the third biggest loser of the year was, unfortunately, Lionsgate. And now we're at the bottom 2, everyone. Now we're cooking with gas, son. So coming in at the 5th highest grossing film of the year, or the second biggest losing film studio of the year, we have Paramount. And obviously you can now know who number 1 was. Paramount took a loss this year of $259 million. And the extremely unfortunate thing here is, in all truth, they only had 2 films this year that actually were able to bring in any sort of profit. And that was Scream 6 and Paw Patrol, the Mighty movie. Paw Patrol made like 71 million bucks profit. Scream made like 39 million profit. Other than that, though, you had A for Brady, which was not made a lot, but did not make a lot, 26 million. Dungeons and Dragons, which that one really sucks that one failed, because that was a really good movie. And I think, honestly, it was just a matter of the brand has been kind of hurt, not just from the movie, but because of like things that have happened with like Wizards of the Coast, whether or not people really understood the concept or the idea. But honestly, if and maybe its marketing just wasn't as appealing, but frankly, it had the potential to make more. The fact that it actually only lost 86 million is impressive, given the fact it was made, no joke, on 150 million. Now, to be fair, I think you probably could have scaled back the budget a little bit. You probably could have made that a little cheaper, not a lot. 100 million for a fantasy movie like this still makes a lot of sense, at least. But maybe you could scale back maybe 30 million, I'm guessing, which based on what I estimate the marketing is probably on this means it would have been made on less than 200 million or $200 million. That still wouldn't have saved it financially, but it would have definitely helped it. But because of all the goodwill it got, it's got a great life. It's had a good life on streaming. I know that. Maybe we'll be able to earn a sequel. I'd be willing to see that. But you still have other films like Transformers, which barely lost money, but still lost a little bit of money. And that film went on to make $439 million, which goes to show the problem with making films on that level of a budget, really. But then you get Mission Impossible, which should have been able to make its money back no problem. But the problem is, it's made on almost $300 million due to the pandemic, inflating the budget, issues that were going on during production. So it barely lost its money, but it did still lose money. Even things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pretty much broke even. So at that point, it's not really that big a loss. Like if I were to just look at it as is right now, you would be looking at a film series or a studio, which would have lost still a decent amount of money, but you're looking at a film studio that would have lost maybe like $81 million or $82 million at this point. That's a lot, but that's hardly like god awful. The studios take losses all the time. But then you get the Killers of the Flower Moon, which is a Paramount production. At the very minimum, they're a distributor, but I believe it is a Paramount production. Film is made on $200 million. And that's not including the marketing. So you're looking at a film probably made closer to like anywhere from $250 to $275 for its production budget and marketing budget. The film did go on to make like $156 million, but I'm sorry, and I get he's Martin Scorsese, and I brought this up multiple times, but it bears repeating. When you're a studio, you're in the business of, making money. Now, that being said, you're also in the business of prestige and, quality. And Killers of the Flower Moon is a fantastic film. I did put it on the best films of the year list. But you also have to be honest and say, look, Martin, I love you. We love you. And we wanted to make this film, but $200 million, we're not going to see our money back on this film. And sure enough, they didn't just not see their money back on this film. First off, about an hour and 3.5 hours, I'm amazed that movie even made over $100 million. It goes to show that it is, in fact, a good film. That people went back to see it multiple times, probably, which is impressive because it's not a film I think is very rewatchable. It is a little on the uncomfortable side, just a smidgen. But point being is that it is a film that ultimately wasn't going to see its money back. Even if they had made it on half the budget, you're still looking at a film that's got 50 to 75 in marketing alone. So you're looking at a film that made on a $150 to $75 million budget. And now you're talking about a film that would have had to have made roughly $270, $290 to break even, something like that. There was no way this film was ever making its money back. And I'm just wondering if Paramount is okay with that, given the fact that this will probably be an awards contender. Like, they did apparently get their money's worth, I guess, out of it. I don't know. All I know is, coming in at number 6, or the number 1, depending on how you look at it, number 6 highest grossing film, or the lowest grossing film studio of the year is Disney. Now, for a while, I was wondering, is this truly a bad year for Disney? Is it truly a bad year for Disney? Or is it just a disappointing year for Disney? Is that what's going on here? Because they had wins. Disney actually did have wins. Ant-Man, despite underperforming, both at the box office and with the critics and even the audiences, still actually turned a little bit of a profit. Not a lot. 18 million is not good for a Marvel MCU film. But then you had Guardians of the Galaxy making over $234 million, or $230 million. You had a Little Mermaid, which was able to rake in a little bit of a profit. Barely, but it still did it. You had Elemental, which made $31 million. So and it was able to just barely eke by. So you still had wins this year. These are not the numbers these films should have been pulling. Ant-Man should have at least made about 100 million. Even if it just made like 550, it would have been raking in a better profit than what it did. Little Mermaid should have, it's definitely one of the better Disney remakes, should have been able to make like 600 or 700 easy. So you should have seen a film making more like 80 some odd million. Even Elemental, as a Pixar animated film, which was fantastic and made it on a lot of my lists this year, should have been able to pull in probably 100 million in profit, easy. But we had to have Disney as a hurt brand. MCU right now is a hurt brand at the moment. Not as bad as DCE is, or the DC brand is, but it's still a hurt brand. And we know Pixar got hurt because of what Chapek did, putting it on Disney Plus and just treating it like kids' fare. So all those are hurt brands. So what happened? Because by the way, I haven't told you how much they lost yet. Well, then you get into Indiana Jones, whose budget, I don't understand why it had to be 300. That budget makes no sense. And a marketing budget of roughly 400. Film only made $384 million. Film lost about $114 million. You have The Haunted Mansion, which this is probably it's still not as big as The Flash, but it's the second biggest loss of the year. And this is in a year where The Marvels is the first MCU film in history to lose money. Haunted Mansion was made on $150 million. And evidently the marketing budget was roughly the same. I had to look that up, what the marketing budget was. I didn't think it was, apparently the marketing budget though was like about the same. What the hell were they think? Even if it wasn't the same, it still was a pretty decent marketing budget. I remember seeing it a lot. You're looking at a marketing budget of at least $100 million. So now you're talking about a film that has to hit, no joke, almost 390 just to break even. And the film went on to make $117 million. It didn't even make its budgeted amount back. So you're talking about a film series now or a movie that, if you take the relative third out, is only made $70 million against anywhere from $260 to $300 million, roughly. Or $250 to $300 million, roughly. That is horrible. And I still don't get the idea of it not being in Halloween. That's like a perfect, fun Halloween film. But beyond that, where the hell was the money? I mean, I think the biggest paycheck you would have that would have been collected on that movie would have been Rosario Dawson's paycheck. And even then, it probably wouldn't have been that big. So where the hell did the money go? Unless everything we saw there was CGI, which would have been stupid. No, they shot on location. And we know for a fact they were able to get like tax breaks on a lot of that shit because they shoot in Atlanta, all that. So we know they get tax breaks on a lot of those spots. Is it because they actually had to build the mansion? Which I think would be stupid if that's the reason, but it's because they had to build the mansion? I just don't. Was it because there was a lot of practical sets? But even then, practical sets are expensive, but not $150 million expensive. And I've seen far better CGI in a lot less expensive movies. So I don't understand where the money went. My best guess, and this is my best guess, is because this was during the Chapek era. And Chapek was not the best CEO. I've said this multiple times. I have a feeling we were dealing with a bit of a money management issue. Like, they just threw money and just didn't know what, and just said, make the movie on this budget. And we'll put a bunch of it towards this and this and this. And like, they didn't even really bother trying to map out how much a movie like this would cost. So yeah, that that's one of the biggest losses of the year. It hurt Disney immensely, along with Indiana Jones. And of course, we can't continue to talk about Disney losses without talking about the Marvels and Wish. The Marvels, we've gone into depth. We've gone in depth on multiple box office reports about why the Marvels failed. Just to recap: bad marketing, not even bad marketing, just not good marketing. MCU is already starting to be hurt a little bit. It's a movie sequel from a character who, while their first movie made over $1 million, it's not really a very popular character within the MCU. Captain Marvel's not that popular, honestly. And then you're also adding in these Disney Plus characters who have not been in the movies yet, and therefore it's acting like required homework. Add in the oversaturation the MCU has had between the movies and Disney Plus, and a fluctuating quality since they've returned, and you get a movie that is kind of, and then a bad quality, not bad quality, but a less than quality film compared to other MCU outings. And you get a film that was really destined to hurt. Really destined to get hurt. Then you have Wish, which is another film which, again, it's not on my worst list. And I liked it. I gave it a much more positive review than other films other people did this year. But it's still a film that ultimately was suffering from too many cooks in the kitchen, too many conflicting ideas for this type of movie, and was ultimately a film that I think was just destined on arrival not to succeed. And then again, you have to same issue with that Strange World that came out last year, which I liked. Strange World. I thought Strange World was actually very fun, but that doesn't mean it was good. That doesn't mean everyone else was going to like it. And that doesn't mean that you need to be putting hundreds of millions of dollars into each animated property. Wish is made on roughly, and I believe it's like there's two conflicting things, so I averaged it out, but Wish is made on, no joke, $200 million for its budget. It probably had a very low marketing budget, though, so you're looking at probably only like $50 million for its marketing. But that's $250 million. Wish, at the moment, it's still in theaters, but it's barely making anything since coming out. But Wish currently has only made $177 million. That is going to decrease a little bit every day while it's still in theaters, but it lost a lot of money, which ultimately leaves Disney at a loss of $468 million. That's nearly $500,000 lost in their film divisions this year. We are talking about Disney, the happiest place on earth, but no, Disney, the films division we're talking about, who prior to the pandemic, not even prior, I don't think I have the numbers for last year here, but was still able to throw out near $1 billion films last year, as well as be among, if not the highest grossing films of the previous years before the pandemic. The film studio that was able to crank $1 billion films out of their ass like they were just taking a dump. Like it's just like, oh, I gotta use the bathroom. There's $1 billion. The studio for that was the juggernaut forever. And they're the worst. They have had the biggest financial loss in recent years, in recent history for Disney. Look, Disney is not done. In fact, Disney is probably never going to be done. But things come in ebbs and flows, and Disney has had ups and downs. Right now, they're having one of their downs. But it is at moments like this where they will regroup, recalibrate. Bob Iger's back. Even Bob has made some comments lately. They're like, whoa, Bob, I get it. Like with the actors and writers strike, I get it, but this is not the time for this. Like we need to be coming together and say, I get it, Bob, but the reason they're doing this is because they feel they've been mistreated. And they want to do this job too, Bob. Otherwise, Bob Iger usually knows what the hell he's doing. So Yeah, Bob, we love you, Bob. But sometimes even you need to think a little bit before you speak. The point being is, we we need to this. No, but we can only hope that Disney has a much better year in the coming. And they look, if I were to right now go into, and actually I should update my upcoming movies tab, because I use it to check what movies are coming out. So coming out for 2024, let's actually take a look, because we are now in 2024, everyone. So let's see, what does Disney have coming out here? Maybe I'll do another video about what we can expect and hope for the coming year. But let's just take a quick look right now. Disney's first film this year, a sole re-release doesn't count, although it could at least be beneficial. Let's see here. What's the first film Disney has on the radar right now? So, Turning Red also has a re-release. So, their first actual feature film they're releasing this year is going to be, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually supposed to be Inside Out 2, right? Where is it? The First Omen. Is this like a prequel to The Omen? Interesting. That's 20th Century, so that is Disney. All right, that's not an amazing start, but it's something at least. Civil War, come on, where? Then there's Disney, Deadpool 3, which I get the impression we all have a lot of faith in that one. Then we got the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which once we get closer to May, they're going to ramp up the marketing for that. Then we have Inside Out 2, which, oh man, everyone loves the first Inside Out, so hopefully they're going to be able to actually really knock it out of the park with that. Mufasa the Lion King. I'll be honest, I got no... Wait, this is a drama too? Wait, what is this? Oh, I'm sorry. I got it. I got to check that real quick. Let's see here. Told the flashbacks, Rafiki Tomono tells the story of Mufasa as a young lion. This is still something that's slated to come out. Okay. Let's see here. What else we got here? So yeah, Mufasa the Lion. We'll see what that brings. That's definitely a gray area, but we'll see what happens. We have let's see what else is coming up for Disney. What else you got? Disney? Seriously, what else do you have? Alien Romulus. I thought that was supposed to be a TV series though. I guess it says it's coming to theaters, so we'll see what happens there. Actually, Disney's got a pretty light year coming up this year. Huh. The Amateur, which is November. Yeah, there's actually, Disney's got a very light year this year. Holy crap, they got a light year. Everyone else is, but to be fair, makes a lot of sense. This is going to be their time to recalibrate, restructure, and do the things they need to do to get back on track. As for the rest of them that had a rough year, honestly, just bad luck with some of these things, I feel. Mission Impossible should have done better, but didn't. There are films that could have done better, but had certain things against them. Again, thinking words real quick. A Haunted Mansion, for example, should have done better if it could have been only released at a different time. Either way, though, regardless, honestly, I even think the Marvels could have done better had it maybe stayed a little bit closer to summer. Someone did bring up, though, that it was within the Barbenheimer area of release, and I guess I can understand why that wouldn't work as well. But still, there could have been some creative moving around. Regardless, though, that is the end of the year box office report. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you next time. And you know what? Maybe I think at some point this week I will do that whole upcoming movies of the year box office and see how well these studios hopefully will fare. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.